Hello, welcome to our class. And I want to welcome you all to our heart medicine and just wishing you all a beautiful evening. Thank you so much for coming and practicing. On behalf of all beings, we give thanks to you. And wow, so much is happening. And for those of you who are new to our practice, welcome. For those of you we started a few minutes late because so many people were logging in and just getting settled. And, this is a class about cultivating the heart, finding resiliency in the metta practice. And what a journey we've all have been on. We've just huge full moon. We're coming up on the solstice, powerful time, a lot of change, a lot of dynamic energy. But also with that, there can be so many emotions and a feeling of a lot of uncertainty. So I want to first just say to everyone, hi, and in the chat window, let's just see where everyone's coming in from. Just say your city, and again, just sending everyone so much love and joy and gratitude. I see Chicago and Pittsburgh and Madison. Yes, we have our beautiful favorite Robert. And look at we have Maryland, Arizona, and I love to see all of us Missouri, and a couple of people from Madison in Canada, Portland, and yeah, just so good that we're all here. This class is really about cultivating our hearts right now and finding our refuge in love and kindness and compassion. And if you've been practicing with me for the last few weeks, it's been like we're really moving through these turbulent waters, okay? So the more we practice, I've been finding more and more this practice is becoming more as I reincorporate it, reinvigorate it's becoming more of my ground. But I have to remember. So tonight is about remembering. And also just a note to be patient, right? Sometimes we have one meta class and we're like, I don't feel different yet. It's like, come on, everybody. We have to remember we're turning, we're turning the ship right and we're heading in the right direction. So let us be patient with the practice, be patient with yourselves, be patient with all beings, right? We're going through the dark night into the light. There's so much reference. So here we are on the solstice. So we're bringing that flavor in. The darkest night of the year begins also the movement to the light. There's something very profound about that. Okay, so let's share a little bit about the practice before we start. Remembering that this is about any amount of friendliness that you can send to yourself, any kindness, right? Sometimes that word loving kindness feels too strong for people. So just think about friendliness, right? The next half an hour, can I send friendliness to myself, right? Can I meet this moment as a friend? Can I be with myself? Can I visualize myself? Because that's what this practice, the power of it is in the visualization. So as we close our eyes and we sit, I want you to imagine yourself, okay? And then we say the phrases. And I think Baba has posted the phrases just as a reminder. May I be happy and peaceful. May I be safe and protected. May I be healthy and strong. And may I live with ease and joy and well-being. Okay, so the power comes when we say these phrases continuously as best you can. Sometimes you might pause and you might just feel the energy. But for a lot of us, it's like that's the engine, right? We hold the vision, we say the phrases, and we say them over and over. And each phrase is a gift to ourselves, right? And again, this practice comes from the Buddhist tradition. Of course, it's beyond all of that, but this was a practice as an antidote to fear, as an antidote to self-hatred. So tonight we're going to just be focusing on yourself, okay? So seeing yourself, whatever age, for many years, I used to see myself as very small, 3 years old. I always had this image of a yellow bathing suit. I had this bathing suit. My mother could never get it off of me till I was sleeping. Then she would wash it, I suppose, and then put it back on in the morning. But we lived in LA. It was hot down there. So this is a practice of just trying your hardest, any loving energy, right? Be aware of the purifications, anger, sadness, and numbness. Remember, sometimes we meet those in the practice. We feel nothing, or we start to feel anger or irritation with ourselves or others. Just meet those moments. And we're going to talk about how metta transforms more of our difficult emotions, our painful emotions. Okay. So we will sit together, and I want to read you as we begin a poem by a little, not a poem necessarily, but some words by the Zen master, poet, and activist who passed away a few years ago, who's a beautiful, inspiring teacher to so many, the Venerable Thich Nhat Hanh. He writes, "True peace is always possible, yet it requires strength and practice, particularly in times of great difficulty. To some, peace and nonviolence are synonymous with passivity and weakness. But in truth, practicing peace and nonviolence is far from passive." So it's an engagement, right? And I like that word nonviolent, because can we be nonviolent with ourselves, right? And the nonviolence is here, right? In our mind. Can we begin to practice this inner nonviolence? So that's another way that we can think about this for those of you who are activists and working with the collective. We are the ecosystem, right? If we're nonviolent in here, we will naturally be nonviolent towards others, right? So as within, so without, or as above and below. It's that, right? We want to work with our own energy. The more loving we are here, the more naturally we extend to others. So this is not a passive practice. This is a practice that does take engagement and some concentration. So if the mind starts wandering, just come back. Just begin again wherever you are, okay? So with that inspiration, we are going to get down to some metta, and find yourself in a comfortable position, everybody, wherever you are. It's good if your spine is upright. That can just help us, okay? And as you begin to just close your eyes, let your whole body begin to settle, and maybe take a big inhale and a big exhale, and arrive into your body in this moment. Okay, so we're arriving and we're settling. And you might want to begin by moving your neck and your shoulders around a little bit. And as you exhale and inhale right now for a few breaths, breathe in peace on the inhale and peace on the exhale. And allow your shoulders and your neck to relax. Allow your hands and your arms to relax. And notice how your hands are placed, and just feel them in whatever position. See if you can soften them. And bring your awareness to your heart center, and just take some breaths in and out of the heart, and just acknowledging if there's emotions present. Maybe you feel anxiety or restless or sad, or maybe happy and joyful and excited. And just see if you can just breathe that out and let your body be your attention to your belly. right under your belly button. Take some deep belly breaths. I always talk about this part of the body. In Chinese medicine, it's called the hara. It's the seat of our power. And it's where we often energy, we clench, we get digestive.
Recording in
Chair or
progress.
wherever you're sitting this evening, feel the sitting bones touching, the contact. And feeling your legs now, your upper legs, and feel your knees in whatever position they're in. And we're bringing our awareness into the body with loving attention. So feel your calves and your ankles. And now feeling your feet. See if you can feel the bottoms of your feet and the tops of your feet. And just feeling the whole body as a unified field of awareness and softening as we begin the practice. We're really cultivating energy. So try not to be attached to the practice form, but yet consistent as a tool into the doorway of the feeling tone of love and kindness and friendliness. And as you begin to soften your body, any places that feel tight, scanning and just softening, let us begin to pull up an image of ourselves in this moment, or at any time or any place, whatever is easiest for you to connect to. As a child, as a baby, as a teenager, or in this very moment, holding this image of yourself and just smiling with kindness, this beautiful being, seeing yourself through the eyes of Tara, the great Buddha of compassion, Kuan Yin, seeing ourselves through love and care, with kind attention as we begin to pick up the phrases. We begin to offer, may I be happy and peaceful. And you can also say, may you be happy and peaceful. Whichever way works best for you, where it feels connective. It helps to say your name as a way to get your attention or to feel more connected to the words. May I be safe and protected. May I be healthy and strong in this body. And may I live with ease and joy and well-being. And so take your time at the beginning just to sustain the vision of yourself as we work with the phrases over and over. May I be happy and peaceful. May I be safe and protected. May I be healthy and strong in this body. We send love and kindness and friendliness to our bodies. And may I live with ease and joy and well-being. So take your time here over and over, saying the words at your own pace, in your own unique way. And seeing yourself with kindness, friendliness. May I be happy and peaceful. May I be safe and protected. May I be healthy and strong in this body. And may I live with ease and joy and well being. Remembering to relax your body and soften. Holding the image of yourself as best you can. Each phrase is a gift. And may I be happy and peaceful. May I be safe and protected. May I be healthy and strong in this body. May I live with ease and joy and well-being. Staying as connected as you can to the body, to the words, to the visualization. Just keep coming back. May I be happy and peaceful. May I be safe and protected. May I be healthy and strong in my body. May I live with ease and joy and well-being. If the mind starts to wander, come back with the next phrase. Just begin again. Be gentle and patient. We just begin again whenever we get lost. May I be happy and peaceful. May I be safe and protected. May I be healthy and strong in my body. May I live with ease and joy and well being. And for the last few moments of our sitting, imagine that through the heart, this metta is going out and including all of your family, your loved ones, your community, all the people you work with and you see every day. And we want to send some of this metta out to include them in our circle. May our families and our communities be happy and peaceful. As we extend this metta through our hearts out, imagine like this great light, it's going out farther and farther, including your city, our countries, all the people on this planet. May we all be safe and protected. May all beings everywhere be healthy and strong in their bodies. May extend this metta to include all of the earth, Pachamama, the galaxies, the universes. May all of creation live with ease and joy and well-being. And so as you extend this metta, just thinking of the people in your life, you could just imagine it's like the sun just shining on them. And the animals and your pets, and the dogs and cats and birds and the whales. And we just extend this loving wish. May all of creation, may all the animals and the trees and the oceans and the rivers and the sky, the angels, may we all be happy and peaceful. Including all the beautiful beings in this class. May we all be safe and protected. May all beings be healthy and strong and live with ease and joy. And we send that to both the sun and the moon. As we begin to close our practice, we bring our hands together in prayer position, bringing them to the heart. We always bow to our practice. We bow to the love, we bow to the sadness, we bow to the tears, we bow to the laughter, we bow to compassion, we bow to frustration. We just allow ourselves to just bow to our good hearts. To the good hearts among us, we bow down. And so that was a good one, everybody. So just taking a moment, if you need to just move your body around a little bit. Oh, and it's so cold and wintry right now in the east. It's like our warm hearts keeping us strong, right? You got to keep the fires going. The fires on the altar, the fires in your own hearts, right? The work, as Thich Nhat Hanh says, peace requires strength and practice. Doesn't just come on its own, even though it's innately in us. So, so as you get your tea, we're going to share a little bit of Dharma and just again, yes, welcome everybody. And I have to give you guys a quick update on my toe because I thought of this class earlier today. So I go to a physical therapy session. I have therapy twice a week, and then I'll actually be doing 2 extra sessions on my wrist and my hands because they're still a little bit choppy there. But today, the physical therapist, he had me sit on this chair and he poured out this maybe about 100 little mm, gold colored rocks. And he said, okay, take your shoes off, take your sock off, and with your toe, pull this stone and then put it over here in this little cup. So as I sat, I was like trying to grab with my toe that had the surgery. He's like, pick up your toe and then put this. And so I sat for like 10 minutes going, and it was like a meta, and I could feel my toe, it was just something funny. And I thought, wow, my toe's doing good because people were sending all the meta the night I was supposed to be here. So I don't know. There was something about that that reminded me. It was like, may I be happy and peaceful. May I be safe and protected. Often when I'm doing the therapy, I start doing the metta, or when I'm at a doctor's appointment. So you can use this practice, everyone. You could take this practice out with you in real situations in your life, while you're driving, when you start to feel tense, when you start to feel um, nervous, or when you have a period of time, you know, there is no such thing as waiting when you're a practitioner. It's like, okay, let's use this time, right? Those in between times, we can do the phrases. And every time you say it, you'll notice that energy is like a reset. And that reset becomes the protection, right? The mind's not falling into its habitual, you know, mantras, which, if you notice, our normal mantras are often the same thoughts, negatively spiraling all the time. You're replacing that soundtrack, right? It's like we have this theme song all the time going. It's very important to notice that track. We are disrupting that, right? Because often we might feel emotion, we're not even knowing why, and it's a story. And the more aware you become, the more you can divert your attention. That's very skillful. What am I thinking right now? How do I interrupt that? Those thoughts aren't helpful. And then you could come back to the meta and you'll notice a shift there. And that's really important. So I just wanted to highlight that. So when I'm doing my physical therapy, I naturally start doing meta because I'm kind of like doing something for my body, even though it seems so small. Don't underestimate the power of the phrases. For even 30 minutes, 40 minutes every day can have great, great power. Okay? So this is really, really the key to it all. So I see there's some questions, but hold on, we're going to take some. I'm just going to share a little bit and then we'll get to some questions and comments, I promise. And I wanted to talk a bit about, at this moment, I wanted to talk a little bit about self-compassion and how compassion fits into metta. So, what can happen, as we've been talking about, is when you're doing your practices, sometimes strong emotion will come up. And we talked about this anger that can come, this sense of not being worthy of love, right? It's like we're trying to send ourselves love, but we don't feel worthy of it. We don't feel worthy of any love, right? That's like a constant battle that I think many of us have in our lives, right? We don't feel worthy of love. And we don't even really know what it's like to feel unconditional love, right? Until we know that feeling for ourselves, we won't ever be able to truly give that to other people, right? Our love will always have this kind of bite to it, right? Often our love is mixed in with codependency or our trauma, or it's confused, right? It's like I love you and then I hate you. It's like they say that thin line between love and hate. That's a sad statement, right? In a way, like how is it that our love becomes um an attack? It can be that what we perceive as that because we don't really know what unconditional love feels like. The more metta that I do for myself and the more I feel that love for myself, the more that love begins to protect me naturally. And does that make sense how that happens? And I want to walk that through because that's the foundation of compassion, right? So, this love, like the more we feel unconditional loving to ourselves, we just love ourselves for existing. Like we see ourselves in our mind. And I hope you all are getting to the point now where you have a moment of seeing yourself and going, oh, honey, I genuinely just want you to be happy. I mean, this whole living thing, all the effort, all the workouts and all the everything we do and all the everything the effort we make to be alive often is about getting love, loving ourselves, being loved by other people. It's a lot of energy that we exude in this. So when there's a moment where we feel unconditionally loving toward ourselves, that can be a powerful moment because it kind of acclimatizes us to a higher frequency. Yeah, it sort of acclimatizes ourselves and we become more familiar with what self-love is really like. Right now, it's very conceptual for people. And I often feel bad when people are depressed and they're looking for information and people go, just go love yourself. Well, if it was that easy, we would all. But as you see, this takes actual foundational work, right? If it was just so easy for us to just, I love myself. Okay, great. But we know it's like, it's not that simple, right? We actually have to, to unveil it, right? And to understand like what is self-love? What does loving myself unconditionally feel like? And the more you acclimatize yourself to that, the more naturally in your world you'll know it when you feel it. You'll see it, right? You'll so it's like it raises your energy within you, but it also raises it around all the people around you. So, and when we have a lot of love for ourselves, we naturally have boundaries. And I want to tell you all this story, and then I want to talk about the compassion. And it's a story about the Dalai Lama, the 14th Dalai Lama, His Holiness the Dalai Lama. For those of you who are maybe newer to Buddhism, he is reported to be the Buddha of compassion. And for many years in my 20s, I traveled all around the world, even to India, to attend teachings. I was very devout. For those of you who know me, I used to want to be a Buddhist nun. So I did that for many years, all throughout my 20s, traveled and practiced. And he came to the United States. I think this was in 2010. And he was doing in Washington, D.C., he was giving a 10-day teaching. And it was called the Kala Chakra Initiation for World Peace. And I'll never forget because Obama was in office because he was going back and forth in meeting in these private meetings. So we were in DC at the Verizon Center in downtown DC, sold out. I don't know, 75,000 person, 75,000 people to do this elaborate ritual. And that's where these monks spent 3 days nonstop. They would rotate, building this enormous sand mandala. And the sand mandala was a 3D, kind of flat but three-dimensional archetypal universe. Basically, what they were doing was building a universe, and then the Dalai Lama was going to infuse it with blessings. That's what this whole thing was about, and all these visualizations. And at one point, it got so complicated. We had these like red bandanas on our head, and we were supposed to imagine deities coming from this side of the room, and then this side, enter in, see the palace, and he would be leading it. And I didn't even know what was going on, to tell you the truth. A lot of the times, a lot of times I'd be sitting in there and I'd be like falling asleep. And I remember being like, what's going on? And this lady looked at me and she goes, I think the main thing is have a good heart. Right now, it's like this 10-day thing, right? This 10-day celebration. And but it was all about love and compassion, right? And so I would come very early. We could enter in 2 hours early, and there would be all these monks working on the mandala, and there'd be all these other monks reading suttas, old ancient suttas, because the sound vibration, right, of may people remember their true nature, may they awaken, may all beings awaken and remember they are Buddhas, right? And I will never forget where I would sneak around in the Verizon Center, even though they would tell us not to. We were always jumping around to empty seats because we had the farthest ones, and we would see them closer. We would run over and sit there. So one day I was sitting in front of this enormous jumbotron. So the Dalai Lama was like right in front of me, like it was like the front row of the movies. And I'll never forget, while he was talking, he stopped and he goes, you must believe liberation is possible. Do you believe liberation is possible? It's not just about a monk or a nun, all beings. And I remember it was like, he was like penetrating right into my, I was like, liberation's possible. And what I noticed that the Dalai Lama, so he's there doing this world peace, he's a monk, he's and the Dalai Lama had at least 40 security guards guarding him. And I'll never forget, at lunch, this is the part about the boundaries, right? He is coming in after one of the meals and he's about to sit down. And at that time, we all stand up. And as he's coming in, we're kind of bowing. It's normal when the teacher enters, you stand, you do a bow, he sits down, we start that session. And as he was coming in to sit down, he sat down and the whole room's quiet. 75,000 people, like a pin drop, as we're watching him sit down. And a man comes running a little bit, walking too fast down the aisle, like he was heading straight for the stage. And the secret guards, they were all like the men in black, they were guarding the whole thing. Within a minute or so, and because I could see this on the jumbotron, I was like, what? They had him, I guess the word would be hogtied. They had his legs and his hands behind, and they were just right. And the Dalai Lama looks over and he sees the commotion of this guy. And the guy was holding this 4th of July hat. This was over 4th of July. And he goes, I just wanted to give this to you, right? And they're taking him out this side door. And the Dalai Lama was looking. He goes, get the hat, get the hat. So he grabs the hat, fell on the floor. Someone brings it up. He puts it on and he's like posing. And then he said, I'm really sorry, but you're not allowed to get that close to me, because and I thought, oh my God, this is the Buddha of compassion. But if you get too close to him, his love and compassion, you will get hurt. that I'm sure they lovingly took him outside and put him down on the grass somewhere. I'm sure he didn't get arrested because he was like, I'm not just trying to give a gift, but you can't give a gift like that, right? You have to follow the protocol. And I just remember thinking, like, how this beautiful being has to go through the world with a 40-person security team, right? And like, because people, his love protects him. He has to be protected. So I say this, everybody, because sometimes we think that if we open our heart, that we somehow become a doormat, right? That we won't have this natural boundary, but actually, your love will create more of a boundary. When we have a lot of trauma and we have a lot of unprocessed wounds and we don't know where our boundaries are, that's when we get hurt, right? Exactly, Shelly. Boundaries are self love. You know where I am, I know where you are. It's like, okay. And then we can love and respect each other deeper. So I sometimes get that fear that people say, if I open my heart, I won't know where the boundaries are. When you are not in your heart, you lose track of the boundaries. Okay. That's actually the opposite. When you're in your heart, you're in your body naturally moves away like this. It's like the meta is like, hold on, no, 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 you can't come that way. You naturally do it without a sense of anger. The Dalai Lama was not angry with that man at all. He was laughing. He put on the hat. He was just like, yeah, these are the boundaries, and you kind of went over the line. So this is what happens. There was no ill will, there was no frustration. So I just want to say that because that's the fear of a lot of us, that when we take down this armor, right, that we won't have everyone will just be able to do things, or we'll lose track. Chokum Trumpa used to say idiot compassion. Right? Idiot compassion would be like, I'm filled with love, I'm going to go to East Oakland at 2 o'clock in the morning and walk down the street. Right? That would be, you're going to get hurt. You know what I mean? It's like, let's be mindful now. Right? So I just wanted to put that out there, because that sometimes comes up, and even for me too. And us learning how to love ourselves is learning how to have boundaries with people. This has been coming up in my life a lot lately, as there's people who want to love me deeply, but they're hurting me by trying to love me too much. It's like, no, 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 no. And I see Baba laughing, because Baba knows these people and it's like, your love is too much. Okay. It's not in the boundaries. It's gone over the top here. Right. And the love is showing me, my own self-love is showing me, where before I might have just went down that stream. Right. But it's like, no, no, this doesn't feel like unconditional love. Right. Because I know what that love feels like by my own practice. Right. When you know what love is like, you will recognize its falseness in the external. Like, okay, what that might feel like it, but that's not really it. Right. That's kind of like, it's something else. It's mixed. Right. A motivation that's mixed. So I really just wanted to say that. And does everybody understand? Do you all get what I mean by this? This is a really important piece. To love others, we must love ourselves, and those boundaries become more and more fierce, right? And over time, they have that fierceness. Like the Dalai Lama, there was a fierceness. Those security guards were locked and loaded. Imagine having to have 40 person and all you're doing is blessing the universe. It's like, this is the world we live in with all those paradox, right? And it's like, wow. And that just really changed me. And I've been thinking about that a lot. So I want to say also a couple of things about the self-compassion, because this also is very similar. Sometimes people mix up self-compassion with self-pity. Okay. And they think, I can't be compassionate with myself right now. I've got to get up. I've got to go out in the world. I got to conquer. I can't lay in this bed, or I can't rest. We have this cruelty in the mind that we think, if I was to soften that, then I would lose my motivation. I wouldn't be able to do the things that I do. And so be careful about that fuel in your engine, right? Because love and metta is the most creative, energizing, powerful energy that you can use. It's like solar power, right? Whereas motivating yourself by like that old like beat down, right? It's like that's not self-compassion. And so be careful. Sometimes I've been working with clients, and they're really mixing up self-compassion and self-pity. Okay? And pity, they call it the near enemy of compassion. It masquerades as compassion. So real compassion sees suffering, right? So I say somebody comes to my house and they're sharing me a story, or something's going on with them. My heart naturally feels care, right? I care about that suffering. And there, in real compassion, there's this idea, there's a feeling that you want to reduce the suffering. It's an inclination, right? Like I want to help. I want to reduce that, right? I feel that compassion. Whereas when I feel pity for someone, it's like, oh, you poor person over there. There's no sense of interconnectedness in that, right? It's like you're over here, you're going through all that. There's no sense of that. At any moment, any one of us could get hit by a bus. At any moment, any of us could be in the hospital. At any moment, life is so transitory, right? So, real compassion first has this deep sense of interconnectedness, right? All of us have been sick. All of us will lose our parents. All of us have been brokenhearted. All of us, it's like these are human experiences. We all have 10,000 joys and 10,000 sorrows. We all get that. Rich people have rich people sorrows, poor people sorrows, all of it, right? Nobody's exempt from that. So that quality of compassion is at one with. Pity is you poor people over there. It's like throwing money at beggars while we run off, right? It's kind of like it's not a connected feeling. And you'll notice that. So when I have feelings of self compassion, it feels very different than when I have feelings of self pity. When I have feelings of self pity, guess what? I feel more suffering. When I have genuine feeling of self-compassion, I'm lifting out of the suffering. It's a very different energy. When I feel self-compassion, I feel like, oh, this really hurts and I'm with this hurt, right? And I care about it. It actually is like a medicine. When it's self-pity and I'm telling a story, I'm sinking. There is a big difference. So start to notice the story of the self-pity is like, poor me, I'm going through so much. And it can mask. So I just want you to be on the lookout. Compassion is about, I care about this pain. And that becomes a deep balm. The moment I know I hit self-compassion, I'm out of the suffering. When I'm in self-pity and I spiral, wow, it's going to be a long day, right? Because then all the stories come and all the movies, the sad movies, the hurts. You start thinking about your third grade class and people laughing, all the horrible story, we sink into poor me versus with self compassion, we think of, I love me and I'm sorry this is happening to me and this is painful and I love myself. There's a great deal of metta in real compassion for ourselves. So make sure that as you're feeling your way through, you'll notice the vibrational difference. When it's real self-compassion, you feel uplifted, right? Just like when you're having a problem, when someone's pitying you or when someone's genuinely looking you in the eye and they care. When that happens, when someone genuinely has empathy, we're both liberating ourselves in that moment. But if they're just giving you the story or digging you deeper into the story or just saying, "Oh, you poor thing. Oh, that," you know what I mean, versus being just with the suffering, it's a different feeling. So I hope that makes sense. I'll talk more about that as we go on because this is just a trap that I notice we can easily fall into with compassion. We mistake it, just like we mistake love, conditional love for unconditional. We're learning these truer energies and the purified version of them, which we have to learn from the inside. So I was just really reflecting on that. So I hope that makes sense. And that also gives us boundaries um, in a different way. Empathy and compassion will always feel restorative. We're scared to open, but when we do, guess what? We feel restored, right? It's like we open to the truth of life. Like in this moment, I feel scared. In this moment, like somehow meeting the truth with that empathetic, compassionate heart is the medicine that we're looking for. We need our own care ultimately, because there'll be many nights where you might be by yourself. Even if you're married, you might be by yourself, feeling. the more you're generating that, the more resilient you become, right? It's like we learn how to soothe our own uh, places of difficulties. And it's much easier for another person to be empathetic with us. And we know how to be empathetic. So I'm still practicing these, and we'll be continuing to unpack that as we go here. Okay. So boundaries, self-compassion. And the last thing I'll say is that how my self-compassion works is usually when there's something difficult happening, I usually try very hard to hold my hand. And I have this like, it's kind of like my grandmother's voice. It's like, oh, honey, I'm just so sad. This is difficult. Yeah, I feel that. I wish it was better. And just like holding that, right? This is kind of, I have compassion for this. Your body hurts. You're tired. Whatever it is, you feel triggered by something. Someone hurt your feelings. Oh, that hurt our feelings, right? It's like an acknowledgement and just bringing in, I care about this suffering. And caring about this suffering is not feeding it. The stories begin to feed. The pity story will feed a whole nother narrative. Everyone does this to me. Right. Be careful of getting lost in the story. Self-compassion is present with what is alive in the emotion. It's not lost in the story. The stories always take us out, everybody. Try to remember that when we work with love and compassion and joy, we want to stay present in the body. What is the energy, not the story about what's going on? That's always 20,000 times worse, right? It's like what the Buddha said, we get shot with an arrow, but instead of taking the arrow out, we shoot ourselves with another arrow, right? And another arrow. It's like, let's just take the arrow out of our heart, right? I don't need to know at this moment who shot it, what brand it is, how many I got shot with last year. It's like just tend to the arrow sticking in our heart. That's what's hurting, right? So these are all just analogies as we learn more about the heart medicine and the true power of metta and the really tremendous power of self-compassion and how it can get us through some tough times, some hard moments. Okay, so all right, so let's get into some questions or comments, especially if you have questions about boundaries or whatever you'd like to mention. I see we have our Adam friend up in the Sierras over there. Let's go to Adam. Hi.
Hi, and thank you very much. I just am really